So this conversation, I'm hoping, maybe 15 minutes or so, and we can just talk a little bit about, just what was happening in your family and what you were kind of trying to get support for and how you found Neuroptimal and just a little bit of your experience, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to start off, like most people, very high stress job, two kids, going through the pandemic. They were, 3 and 5 when we were overseas. And then found myself to be, a single parent, unexpectedly, but all these stressors. And then on top of the job, one of the things I found was that my youngest one, who was 3 at the time, was experiencing a speech delay. Very smart, met all his milestones on the, that were expected, made eye contact, responded to his name, socialized with kids. So, but, unfortunately didn't have that expressive language, piece. So when we could return to the US, which was last year, and this was following, I was very good about, double masking and getting all my vaccines of the pandemic, but I still caught COVID. I found, that for some reason, I was foggy. So I was run down. I was very foggy. I couldn't think of words. It took me a minute to synthesize information. Where I was really locked on, juggling all these, as I call them, chainsaws, right? Like with the kids and the job and, being overseas. So when I returned to the US during the summer, I just sort of had our, vacation. I found a place near me. I'm here in California today. That offered brain optimization. That's what it was called, brain optimization. That was how it was advertised. And so I said, I've got nothing to lose, and this is exactly what I need. I need a little bit of brain training. And so I tried it for 6 sessions. And I'll tell you, after the third session, I couldn't articulate it at the time, but I was telling the woman that I could see clearly. All of a sudden, colors were really vibrant, and I couldn't explain visual acuity. Now I understand it to be visual acuity. At the time, I just said I can see things much brighter. Yeah, it's a very odd but wonderful feeling. And then I felt by the sixth session, I had my game back, and I like that feeling. So I thought if it worked for me, let me research it, figure out what it is. If it can help my kids, why not? And then discovered it was Neuroptimal. Um, I I ended up taking my youngest to a speech pathologist who practiced neurofeedback as well. And again, now I sort of know the lingo, but it's the linear, where she's applying the sensors. He would not sit still. He's now 5 years old at this point. He won't sit still. He doesn't like the sensors on his head. So I thought, well, if we bring his brother, he might be receptive to it. So we brought his brother, who's 7, and he did the QEEG mapping, the brain mapping, and my youngest still had no part of it. Said no. He said, I don't want to. Okay, very effective. So I contacted the first place that I went to. I said, how did you do this? Where I was able to fall asleep, like, and still obtain this brain optimization. And she told me this is what they use, and it was called Neuroptimal. And she was willing to bring my child in, but again, he won't allow any of the sensors on his head. So we had another big move, again, added to the stressors of life. We moved from California during that vacation period to Massachusetts, where I'm currently located. And that's when I found your website. And I decided I'm going to rent it, and I'll do it while he's asleep and see what happens. And just very briefly about him, he's not on medication, never has been. Again, it's a speech delay. The speech delay comes with some behavioral challenges because when he cannot communicate his requests, then it resonates into some behavioral challenges, where he gets angry or upset or melts down. Doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, I call it the train leaving the station. And so we've had the train leave the station a few times, whether it's at a classroom or the transition hasn't gone the way, from a preferred activity that he wants to a non-preferred activity, the train has left the station. So went ahead and rented the device for about a month, and all three of us got it because I think it's not just the youngest that needs it with the speech delay and some of the behavioral issues. I think we all need it. I think certainly I need it. My other son could use it for peak performance and just going through some of the challenges of like moving and leaving friends behind and starting a new school and new house and things like that. So I found I was much calmer. I was very focused. I dare I say laser focused, but I was absolutely laser focused. Um, People kept saying to me, "I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it." And I was like, "It's neurofeedback," because it's neurofeedback. Like I'm training my brain for peak performance, to be able to juggle all of these things. I'm sorry for the helicopter. And with the youngest, I noticed calmer.
Mhm.
Transitions became easier. Um, his language just there's an explosion of like being able to communicate. I mean, you know, it's to the point of like sometimes I wish he would just stay quiet, but it's a really good feeling that he's able to tell us he wants something, he doesn't want something. He communicates. So all those words that were in his head, the receptive words, he knew everything. He can read. And that's the other beauty is that each, like the summer that we started this or the fall that we started this, all of a sudden the other attributes that he has, like he started to read. Um, and people said, "Oh, it's memorization." I'm like, "Okay," but I would write a word on an etch a sketch, and he would read it for me. So all of a sudden, again, being calmer, being easier with the transitions, and he's had a lot of, they're really quick. He's got to jump on a bus by himself. He's got to go from this school to that classroom, and it's just work. Um, with my other son, you know, he's he asks for it. So he can speak. He's very intelligent. He's advanced a grade, but all of a sudden he's now advanced 2 grades, and he's performing at 2 grades higher than his actual age category.
Wow.
Um, it's I'm not saying that it's a miracle drug. I'm just saying when your brain is calm, when you are calm, um, there's so much that you can do. It's just amazing. And so with the older son, who's 7, turning 8 now, he asks for it. So I know, I know that it it certainly makes him feel better. And so where we're at now is that I do about 2, 3 sessions a week. There's some weeks I don't, I just can't get to it, unfortunately, just because of timing and stuff. But it's so important and such a part of our lives that I I had to purchase one. If you remember, I reached out and I thought we're gonna need this. It isn't just for a short period of time. Um, it's just like having, if I have acetaminophen in my medicine cabinet, I go to it when I need it, right? I still have it in my medicine cabinet. So this is the Neurooptimal device is the same for me. It's there. Now we will continue doing it because I think, my youngest one has a journey and we're gonna keep going forward. But like I said, it's just the language explosion is amazing. And it's not just in English. I mean, he's picked up numbers and colors in Russian, 1 to 20. He's picked up numbers in Hebrew, 1 to 10. He knew Spanish because they spoke to him in Spanish in school, but now he's picked up in the entire alphabet and the numbers. It's just amazing. Like it's just
Wow.
amazing what your brain can do when it's working at an optimal, you know, at an optimal you know, um when it's working optimally.
Hmm.
Yes, let me conjugate that. When it's working optimally, it's shocking, what your brain can do. And so I see it. I see it. And we're gonna continue. And I'm thankful to you and your team. I'm
Oh,
thankful
great.
for the ability to rent the unit because it is quite an investment if you decide to purchase. But um, again, thanks to you and your team for answering our questions, for setting up the webinars with the co-creator, Dr. Val, for being there when we had questions like, because I see, like I see improvements, but it's like, well, is there something else I can do? Or is there a replacement I can do with the sensors like we talked about with the Goop? So thank you very much. It's you and your team have been phenomenal.
Oh,
Really.
great.
So
And so, what have you found in terms of the setup for training your kids? Because that's, I think, often the kind of hardest learning curve for some parents is, how do I get my kids to actually do the sessions? So, did you, maybe just talk a little bit about how did you figure out what was the best way to get them to do them? Did you offer incentives? Was it a non-negotiable? Like what?
So sometimes it was a little bit of everything, like, but for the most part, it was, hey, this is going to be fun. I'll let you use your iPad, but you can't listen to any music. So if you want to play chess, if you want to play, if you want to read, they've got the older one has like Epic and a couple of the apps for reading. I said, this is a great time. If you want to just lay down and I can lay down with you and we can play the I Spy books, read the I Spy books. So it's a little bit of sort of one-on-one, quiet time.
Mhm.
And so that's how it works with the older one. It's just, um, and again, like I said before, he's asked for it before, like, Mom, can you do can you do the neurofeedback? You got it, buddy. You got it. And that's wonderful too, because he's communicating that, that it helps. With the younger one, because he has the issues with the sensor, like being placed on his head and then the goop, he I have to do it at night. I have to do it at night while he's asleep. So when he goes to sleep, I wait about 30 minutes and then I quickly apply everything and I sit there and I wait. And I do that because, I just like to observe, just observe the session. A couple times we've had where he's turned and then, maybe a sensor has fallen off or now he's completely tangled up. And then so we start over. But those are rare. But I stay with him. My point is, and then I'm able to get some work done like at night. While those things are playing their game. Um, so that's what I do with the younger one is it's at night until he gets comfortable. I will say, part of the changes that we've seen also is that, while he always allowed me to wash his hair, it was always you know, like pouring the little bucket of water and making sure water didn't get on his face. In the last probably 3 weeks, he has said no. He said, I don't want it. And then he himself has put his head under the shower. And
Wow.
again, it's so, again, I know they sound like it's no big deal to people, but for him to understand that and to do it himself on his own accord speaks volumes. And it's not to take away from anything that the school does for him, which is,
Mm.
he gets some ABA, in school, about, 10 hours a week of ABA. He gets OT at school. He gets
Mhm.
speech therapy at school. Not to take away from that. Those are wonderful tools as well. But there's no denying that it's neurooptimal, that the neural feedback has helped with, again, the desensitization. So haircuts I give them at night, but recently, again, the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden, there's a little part that's a little bit longer that I didn't catch, and I need to fix it because I don't want him to look, you know, like 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 his mom gave my haircut at night.
Uh-huh.
So I asked, I said, can I just cut this little piece off? It'll be very quick. And he says, okay,
Mm.
we're getting there. They're baby
Right.
steps, but we're getting
Yes.
there. And you know, again, I think there will be a time that he will allow me to put the sensors. I do believe it because he watches me do it and he watches his brother get sessions in. And now that I'm in California visiting my family, I brought the device with me. I had my brother. I said, "You have to try this." I'm like a neurooptimal salesperson. So it's not. I said, "You have to try it. It's good for you." And so he watched my brother do it. So I think there.
Mm.
I do believe there will be a point where he's like, he'll put the sensor and he'll try it, and
Mhm.
we'll go from there. I don't think it'll happen, where I have to apply it at night the rest of his life. I don't believe
Right.
that.
Yeah, and that's been my observation with kids who have sensory processing issues is that desensitization process happens, right? The automatic functioning brain stops flooding, right, with sensory data, right? Because that just overwhelms, the conscious self. And so when the brain is better at only sending enough information to be able to relate with the environment, then that transition very organically happens, where the child does things like puts their own head under the shower because that's now a tolerable amount of sensory information, not like flooding their system.
Yeah,
So,
it's I mean, nothing shy of a miracle to watch that. It really is.
mhm,
Again, they're small. I mean, for me, they're small baby steps and they're milestones, but my gosh, um, it's so much easier. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much easier for him to do it and have control over his own body, which I think is
yes,
really important,
yes,
right? And so that everything doesn't become a struggle. Holding him down for shots, holding him down for haircuts, holding him down. That just is. I mean, it's uncomfortable for him. It's certainly uncomfortable for me to have to do it, and it's such a relief that that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, again, there's these people wonder with the neurofeedback, like, well, do you get a report or does it tell you? And I'm like, no, it's, or they want to know what the skips mean and how many skips did he have, you know? And I'm like, you don't understand. It just, there's things that happen that are aha moments, like going to the doctor's office where he just knows he's super smart. I mean, he wouldn't even walk in the door, and now goes and sits down, and the nurse practitioner put a stethoscope in front of him, and she's like, "Do you know what this is? Do you know where this goes?" He takes it and he puts it on his chest, and then he allows her to put it in his the listening part so he can hear his heartbeat. It's those wow moments, and he's only 5, so this is just going to get better, and it's going to get better and better. And I'll tell you, one of the concerns I had with school and just relying on um just certain modalities or certain therapies was, yeah, they're going to get him through to certain behaviors like sitting in a chair at lengths of time, or sharing or things like that, or being able to quote unquote tell a story because he's just going into KG now. Um, my concern is I don't want him to fall behind academically. He's
right.
known his alphabets, his numbers up to 100. He counted the numbers frontwards and backwards by the age of 2.5. He counted by 10 to 100 at 2.5. I have videos of this. Very intelligent young boy, but I didn't want him to fall behind. So I thought, crumbs, we're gonna need an edge. And so even if his language, you know, um, is fine and he recovers from that and he does better, I'm going to continue with the Neuroptimal for both kids, for myself as well, well through the years, because I think just having that peak performance is is that's just a whole nother level of benefit for this. It isn't just being able to tolerate sort of anxiety and de-stressing and things like that. No, it's being able to perform when it's so competitive out there, academically, and sports and stuff like that. So I think it was a wise investment.
Mhm.
When people ask me the cost of Neuroptimal, there isn't a price tag I would put on my kids' health or their future. Um, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's
Um,
it's far cheaper than medication. And again, if people need that, that's fine. But why not? Let me try this first. If we go towards the path of needing medication, then we will explore that option as well. But
right.
knock on wood, so far, haven't needed it.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for, sharing as much as you have about your experience and the changes you've seen in the kids. Is there anything that you would sort of suggest or recommend for parents who are exploring whether neurofeedback is good for them? Like any tips or anything in your journey that you found particularly helpful in getting there?
I think I think to be patient and um to look at your own child, it's so easy to compare, especially with, how accessible, not what just one phone I'm on now, two phones, an iPad, computers. It's so easy to go in and Google or listen to my story and say, oh, this was, it was a miracle. All of a sudden our child was a perfect, cherub. Um, I think I think what parents need to do or caregivers need to do is look at your child and watch the changes within that child. And again, they're tiny, but then when you look back, over what since September we've been doing this, and it's now August, almost a year. All of a sudden, the changes look huge. But I guess I wouldn't look to every single day like, oh, is he better? Because it's a marathon, not a race. It's certainly a marathon, not a race. And so, like I said, I had to just walk away from researching about Neuroptimal and how others, the speed at which others progress, because again, it's a journey for every single person. The other tip I would give is, you know, certainly as a caregiver, whether you're a single parent, two parents, you have a village that helps you take care of them, you need it as well. I mean, there's just so much going on out there, with work and life, and so I would encourage families to participate as well. Um,
What do you notice in yourself? Like when you maybe a good question is like, when do you say to yourself, oh, okay, I need to do a session? What are the signs for you?
um, I can tell when when I'm starting to feel a little bit anxious and stressed out. I can feel it. I can absolutely feel it. I try not to get to that point. To be frank,
Mhm.
I don't want um, to get to that point and then use the neurooptimal as sort of like a band aid to fix things. I think just for my own sanity and well being, it's I just try to keep up with it, just like I would. It's important, just like I go walking 3 times a
Uh-huh.
week, then this is important for me to keep up with it. And again, it isn't just the stress, it's just having that peak performance. I have a very, very high stressful job. Like, um, dare I say it, I'm a federal agent. So I need to be, I need to have my wits about me. It's a life and safety, function that I need to be alert and coherent and sharp at all times. And so like I said, it's just like if I go to the gym, 3 times a week, or I go walking 3 times a week. Um, it's important for me to keep up with the neuroptimal. Now, sometimes I don't. Sometimes a week will go by, and but I know that I need to get back on it. And again, it's important for me just to uh, just to be healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's an important point, which is that for you, you value, and it's a high priority of yours to perform at your best. And to put in the effort to make sure that you're doing your walking, you're doing your neurofeedback sessions, right, that keep you in that place. And I think that's a really important point because everybody has their own priorities, and not for somebody else to say what should be at the top there. But I'm really hearing from you that that's a really important thing. And I'm so happy that Neurooptimal has been a support in making sure that in the most relaxed way possible, you're on top of things.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, some people say, "Oh, I need a drink." Some people say, "Oh, I need a cigarette right now." I'm like, "I need some neurofeedback." you know, that's it makes me feel better. And I'll tell you, really anecdotally, kind of funny story. I For 19 and a half years, I moved constantly with the government, constantly, like and I had a safe, and for 4 years, I did not open that safe, but I said, one day I will remember that combination. I will not get rid of the safe. So I'm not really sure what's inside of it. And so after these sessions, I kid you not, I walked over and put the safe, the code. opened up a safe that I haven't been able to open in 4 years. And
Wow.
I'm like, "That's awesome," you know, that's awesome. It really is. It's a fantastic tool. It truly is. The other reason why I did not prefer to go the route of the linear is this time was not my friend, you know, to be able to have to drive. Again, it's myself, the 2 kids, drive us to appointments. There for, you know, close to 3 hours and then drive back. There's just not enough time in the day, and to get the number of sessions I wanted in per week for all of us, it just wasn't conducive. And so that's the other impetus why I had to purchase my own device. It's on my time. So as you said, you know, I prioritize it, and sometimes it happens at night. Sometimes it happens during the day where he comes in and he sees me, he lays down and he sees me, with the sensors on. But sometimes it's right after I do a session for him because that's the time I have. And so I love being in control of that and being able
Yes.
to sort of manage my own schedule. And I've taken it to work a couple times, you know, to be honest with you. It's such a compact. It literally can fit into a small but tiny backpack. It doesn't weigh a thing. Take it to work. I close my office door, set it up. You know, I've got my session. And now people at work are interested. And it's great. It really is. It's great.
Wow. Well, I won't take any more of your time. I so appreciate you, just sharing your experience. And please, stay in touch and let me know, what unfolds, how your kids are, how you are. I'd love
Thank
to
you.
know. Yeah.
Thank you, Natalie, honestly, and thank you again to you and your team, and for being able to, to offer the rentals. Like, again, it was fantastic, and to be able to try it at home and get comfortable, and it was what drove me to actually purchase it. And thank you for walking me through the the procurement process. It was easy, and so thank you again.